A new study documents volcanic supereruptions, saying that they can last up to 15 to 20,000 years. The aftermath of a supervolcano, and they're talking about the size of the magma system under the Toba supervolcano in Indonesia, Pacific Ring of Fire volcano again. The rare but spectacular eruptions of supervolcanoes can cause massive destruction and affect climate patterns on a global scale for decades, and a new study has found that these sites also may experience ongoing, albeit smaller, eruptions for tens of thousands of years after that. This is a study by Oregon State University. In fact, Oregon State University researchers were able to link recent eruptions at Mount Sinabung in northern Sumatra to the last eruption on Earth of a supervolcano 74,000 years ago at the Toba caldera, some 25 miles away. So you see, one eruption can trigger another eruption. The findings are being reported in the journal Nature Communications. Adarona Musek, an Oregon State doctoral candidate, lead author of the study, said the recovery from a supervolcanic eruption is a long process, as the volcano and the magmatic system try to re-establish equilibrium, like a body of water that has been disrupted by a rock being dropped into it. At Toba, it appears that the eruptions continued for at least 15 to 20,000 years after the supereruption, and the structural adjustment continued at least until a few centuries ago, and probably is continuing today. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. And this is one of the pictures of Lake Toba supervolcano. You can see this is a lake, but it's a crater lake, the caldera area. Now at Toba, it appears that the eruptions continued for at least 15 to 20,000 years after the supereruption, and the structural adjustment continued at least until a few centuries ago, and probably is continuing today. It's the magmatic equivalent to aftershocks following a major earthquake. This is the first time that scientists have been able to pinpoint what happens following the eruption of a supervolcano. To qualify as a supervolcano, the eruption must reach at least magnitude 8 on the Volcano Explosivity Index, or VEI index, which means the measured deposit for that eruption are greater than 1,000 cubic kilometers, or 240 cubic miles. When Toba erupted, it emitted a volume of magma 28,000 times greater than that of the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens volcano in Washington state. It was so massive, it's thought to have created a volcanic winter on Earth lasting years, and possibly triggering a bottleneck of human evolution. Other well-known supervolcano sites include, of course, Yellowstone Park in Wyoming, in the United States, the Taupo caldera in New Zealand, that went off this last supervolcano to have erupted 27,500 years ago, and Campi Flegrei in Italy. Supervolcanoes have lifetimes. We have 21 supervolcanoes worldwide, and there's even more being found in recent years. Now, supervolcanoes have lifetimes of millions of years, during which there can be several super eruptions, said Shanaka Shan De Silva, an Oregon State University volcanologist, co-author of the study, saying between those eruptions they don't die. Scientists have long suspected that eruptions continue after the initial eruption, but this is the first time we've been able to put accurate ages in those eruptions. Previous argon dating studies have provided rough ages of eruptions at Toba, but those eruption dates had too much range of error, the researcher said. In their study, the OSU researcher, Oregon State University, researchers and their colleagues from Australia, Germany, the United States, and Indonesia were able to decipher the most recent volcanic history of Toba by measuring the amount of helium remaining in zircon crystals in erupted pumice and lava from that eruption. The helium remaining in the crystals is a remnant of the decaying process of uranium, which has a well-understood radioactive decay path and half-life. Toba is at least 1.3 million years old. Remember, another eruption that took place 1.3 million years ago was the super eruption of Yellowstone. Now, Toba, 1.3 million years old, is a super eruption, took place about 74,000 years ago. Isn't that strange? We had a lava eruption in Yellowstone 70,000 years ago as well. So its super eruption took place 74,000 years ago, and it had at least 6 definite eruptions after that, and probably several more, Musak said. The last eruption we have detected occurred about 56,000 years ago, but there are other eruptions that remain to be studied. The researchers also managed to establish the history of structural adjustment at Toba using carbon-14 dating of lake sediments that has been uplifted up to 600 meters, that's 1,800 feet above the lake in which they formed. These data show that structural adjustment continued from at least 30,000 years ago until 2,000 years ago, and may be continuing today. That's awesome. That's 28,000 years. Now, and more. Now, the study also found that the magma in Toba's system has an identical chemical fingerprint and zircon crystallization history to Mount Sinabung, which is currently erupting and is distinct from other volcanoes in Sumatra. This suggests that the Toba system may be larger and more widespread than previously thought, De Silva said. He said, our data suggests that the recent and ongoing eruptions of Mount Sinabung are part of the Toba system recovering process from the super eruption. The discovery of the connection does not suggest that the Toba caldera is in danger of erupting on a catastrophic scale anytime soon, the researchers emphasized. This is probably business as usual for a recovering supervolcano, De Silva explains. It does emphasize the importance of having more sophisticated and frequent monitoring of the site to measure the uplift of the ground and image the magma system, the researcher said. The hazards from a supervolcano don't stop after the initial eruption. They change the more local and regional hazards from eruptions, earthquakes, landslides, and tsunamis that may continue regularly for several tens of thousands of years. Toba remains alive and active today. As large as the Toba eruption was, the reservoir of magma below the caldera is much, much greater, the researcher said. Studies at the other calderas around the world, such as Yellowstone, have estimated that there's between 10 and 50 times as much magma than is erupting during a super eruption. This is by Oregon State University on phys.org. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support.